We are talking not one, but two fantasy draft recaps tonight on the CGAT Blitz podcast. You know the feeling that you get when it's like Christmas morning and you get up and you know that you've got gifts to unwrap? It's no different than fantasy draft season. It's literally the same thing. Tonight on the show, we're going to talk a Devy startup, and we're going to talk the orphan team that I took over last year. I'm going to tell you who went where in the rookie draft. I'm going to tell you who was taken in our Devy draft of the all-new, brand-new Devy Sharpshooters League from Hitman Fantasy Productions. Thank you all for joining me on a beautiful evening here in Ohio. My name is Chris Strasball. You can find me on Twitter at Hateful Hitman. And a couple little news and notes to talk about before we get into this. So let's see.
Here's what we know.
Not exactly stop the press's earth-shattering news, but over the weekend, Jarvis Landry signed with the New Orleans Saints. Now, it's got some fantasy implications because I think it automatically gives Jameis Winston a solid number 2 or 3, depending on how you're ranking your guys this year for the Saints. He comes in with good experience. He does come with a little bit of age and a little bit of wear and tear / injuries, but he also brings a level of stability and some real experience to that offense. So it's great for Jameis. I don't know how I feel about it for Jarvis Landry personally. I think Jarvis Landry is definitely draftable. You're still taking him in later rounds, in redraft, startups, Dynasty, Dynasty drafts or whatever, or maybe he's not even available in Dynasty drafts, but some people may have cut bait with him and moved on, but he may be available. So, I mean, he's still draftable, and I think anytime you got Jameis Winston at quarterback, the receivers on that team, there's a potential there for them to break out and do good things. Now, I'm not going to say week in and week out. Okay, and I also don't really understand the status of Michael Thomas. We don't know what he's going to do. Missing pretty much the whole entire season. We don't know how he's going to be able to come back. And they drafted Chris Olave. And they still have, I'm still holding out hope for my boy, Adam Troutman from UD, just right down the road from me here in Ohio. I'm hoping that he takes that third-year leap and is able to really secure that tight end role and do some of the things that we saw him do, in college around here. Not exactly earth-shattering news, but it is of note and worth talking about. Jarvis Landry to the Saints, and it's got some potential. There's a little bit of smoke. I don't see any fire there yet. What else do we know? Well, we know that rookie mini camps, stuff like that, have started to take place. So we're seeing some movement. The NFL draft has come and gone, and now we know where these players are headed. Some of them have already signed their contracts. Several of the bigger names in this year's draft have signed contracts already. So if you have them on your teams or your Devy leagues, or you're thinking about taking them in your upcoming drafts, you don't have to worry about them holding out. So that's good to see. It's good to see these guys, signing, getting in there. They need to get in there and get themselves rolling in the system. And so it's good for them. So the rookies have a little bit of a leg up when it comes to when it really gets ramped up here towards the middle and late end of summer. Fantasy draft season is here, folks, and I've been in several already. We actually started one the day after the NFL draft. I'm actually going to recap that league here in just a little bit. as to what rookies went where, give you an idea of what you're looking at in Dynasty, give you a feel for what this league was thinking, where players went here and there. It was a really good draft. There wasn't a whole lot of reaching, I didn't think. It was a well thought out plan by everybody. The draft went good, and I'll get into it and tell you a little bit more of the particulars here in just a little bit. But as your fantasy drafts are ramping up, I want to talk about one thing in particular before we get into the actual meat of the show. I spoke at the top about the brand new league that I formed through Hitman Fantasy Productions called the Devy Sharpshooters. It's a brand new 10-team Devy league, non-IDP, Superflex, and we're actually drafting that right now. We're in somewhere in around the 15th round, I think. The point I want to get to is I spoke on earlier episodes, make all your draft picks count. Okay, we spoke about fantasy and actual NFL. In the actual NFL, the 6th and 7th rounds, obviously, the NFL teams are taking, they're just taking shots on guys that they hope maybe they pan out, maybe they don't. For us fantasy enthusiasts, I said make your picks count. And that couldn't be more true in a startup. So, the 21 rounder, and we're in round 15, and it took a little bit to get traction going, but there's been some trades happening. People trading back, gaining trades, trading future picks, and I've said this before on my show many times. I don't really trade much in startups. I'm trying to build my team, get it to looking to where it's going to be competitive in the first year, even in Dynasty, and even in Devy, even though I got a really good Devy squad, which I'll talk about here later on as well. I want to be competitive in year one. I mean, and by competitive, I mean we're talking playoffs, Final Four type of year one. That's what my goal is for year one. If you come out winning it, woohoo, awesome. But by competitive, I mean playoffs, Final Four appearance in the playoffs, and I would consider that a successful year, year one. While you are going to make your trades, make your picks count, and if you're trading back and getting this and getting that, look, I've got to tell you, okay, I want to scream it on the message boards in a sleeper chat room on here, but I'm not going to, because I'm not going to really give my opponents, any kinds of tips or help. But if they want to listen to this podcast and hear it, I appreciate the listen. But you got to view the landscape of the draft board. Okay, you need to look at what's out there. Okay, I got guys hitting me up, 3 or 4, 5 guys hitting me up every day. Hey, and I'm picking at the end. Okay, I picked at the 9 slot, so I'm picking almost on the turn. So I have 2 picks, pretty much back to back when it's my turn to pick. I got guys hitting me up for both of those picks. And I'll be honest with you, this draft I kind of skewed away from my normal strategy. Now my strategy is if I draft at the end of a board, I let the draft come to me, and I've still done that to a certain extent, and I don't trade very often. I have made a couple of trades. Just from what happened with the draft coming to me. But if you're going to trade back and trade picks and gather extra picks, okay, look at the landscape of what's out there. Because I got guys trying to pick up 15th, 16th round picks, 19th, 20th, 19th, and 20th round picks. And I'm not sure what they're shooting for. Okay, there's going to be a taxi squad. But the landscape is going to be so dried out by that time that I'm not sure what they're doing. But that's okay. That's their team to run. The point I'm trying to get across here, people, is I've already jumped on a trade that I couldn't resist. It was 2 future picks in this draft, a first-round pick next year, and a second-round pick in 24. Okay, for a couple of picks in this draft. I'm going to jump all over that for a simple reason is we have a 3-round supplemental draft in this Devy league, and we cannot house every Devy player in college football. So there's going to be college talent available to me in the supplemental rounds, the supplemental draft next year, that aren't going to be housed on our Devy teams. And these guys are giving their picks away. I've already got 2 first in the draft. Well, obviously, it's a little depleted. Bijan Robinson, Travion Henderson, the kid from Wisconsin whose name is escaping me right this minute. But, those guys are taken. Okay, but there's going to be other names that pop up. Okay, not many people recognize Trey Lance in college until he was a year before he blew up. Okay, he was available. So, there's going to be names. There's going to be rookies out there. And these guys are just giving away their picks, giving away their first-round picks already, and that's fine. If they want to do that and run their team that way, that's fine. I'll go ahead and build that for the future as well as build a team that is competitive right now. And that's the building blocks to people who are just playing Devy. And a lot of these guys, I don't know them. I have never met any of. I know 3 guys in this league. So the other guys, they're scattered all across the United States. That's what I went for. So I don't know. I don't know their strategy. Okay, I'm looking forward to playing in this league with them, and I hope they stick around for for as long as the league lasts. But my tip to you is scan the landscape of what you're going to be getting. Okay, because you already know we're in the 15th round. The running backs are dead zone. The wide receivers are almost dead zone. There are still some out there. Now you're taking chances on, rookies that are second and third on the depth chart coming in. Hoping to just make the team in some instances. But I'm failing to see, and it'll be interesting to see once these picks become available, and it gets down to them who they actually get, and even more exciting is seeing what they do in the first 3 or 4 years of their NFL careers, to see if these picks pan out, or if they're giving me a first. I've already gathered up 2/3, so I have 3/3 in the supplemental draft and 2 firsts, and I've turned down numerous trade offers because I can't have all those guys. I can't have all the picks. I can't go into a 3-round supplemental draft and have 15 picks because I'm going to have to cut half my team. So it makes no sense to gather up all these future picks if you can't use them. So you have to be careful. I've gathered a few. Hopefully, we'll see when we jump ahead. We jump ahead 365 days. Lord willing, I'm still here. And I can survey the draft board, survey what's out there, what's not going to be rostered in the Devy portion, because our Devy league will lock down, and we won't be able to make any picks. At the national championship. I always lock the Devy leagues down at national championship time. So there's going to be players that are going to be available next year. So I say all that to say this. Just look at what you're doing. Look at the landscape of where you're at and say, is it really worth me trading back into the 17th and 18th to get a couple of guys and give up my first-round pick next year and a potential 5-star quarterback may go pro that nobody sees happening, and he's available because nobody has him on their Devy roster. And he's available to me in the first round. So that's a big picture thing. And that's about a 10-minute rant on a little tip for drafting in Startup Dynasty or Startup Devy Dynasty. It's a great group of guys. I'm happy that they all joined in and participated. They all seem to be very, very active in the fantasy communities and very knowledgeable. So it'll be fun. It's gonna be very competitive, very tough, and you'll see that when I talk about the Devy rosters here that everybody drafted in just a little bit. So with that in mind, let's get to the first one, and I want to talk a little bit about that league first. It's called the Devy Sharpshooters, and I'm not going to get into the actual NFL draft right this moment because it's still underway. But I want to talk tonight about how the Devy draft went on our 7-round Devy startup when we drafted this a week or so ago. And what we're doing here is this is kind of a spin-off to the Devy Hitman, other than it's not IDP, and it's a little bit thinner. It's the Devy Hitman is a 2-quarterback system. This is a super flex system, so you can be a little bit more flexible with your quarterback play, other than the Hitman, which is 2 quarterbacks, and you really need to carry several. But I'm going to run through these rounds here a little bit and talk a little bit about each team. I had one guy reach out and say, hey, I want you to grade the teams. I'm not going to give an overall grade. Not really my thing to judge people. But I will kind of say, I like this or that or this or that. But we'll start right here. And obviously, the first 3 or 4 you can probably, guess. If you know anything about college football and Devy leagues, the first 3, I think, were pretty much just smashed as soon as it was time to go. I drafted in the 2 slot here. Bijan Robinson went number 1 overall. I was hoping that he would go number 2, or that he wouldn't go 1 so that he would fall to me, but no such luck. So Bijan Robinson went number 1. I took Travion Henderson number 2. It was very tough for me to take Henderson, not only because he's a Buckeye, but I really love Jahmyr Gibbs in the Alabama system this year. I think he can flourish, and it was really hard for me, but I also think that Travion Henderson could be a back like Ohio State has never seen before, and they've had some good ones. So I went with Henderson at 2. Jahmyr Gibbs went right after that at 3. Deuce Vaughn, the Kansas State Swiss Army knife, goes at number 4. Personally, thought that was really early for him. I've told you before my thoughts on him as a NFL prospect aren't really high. College fantasy, yes. Devy prospect, not so much. But the guy was in love with him at 4. Let him take him. I hope he proves me wrong. At 5, Braylon Allen, Wisconsin. That's the guy I was talking about a little bit ago. Love that pick there at 5 with Allen. Tank Bigsby goes 6th overall. Tyon Evans, transfer to Louisville, goes 7th, followed by Zach Evans, transfer to Ole Miss. And then 9 and 10 finish out the round, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Bryce Young, quarterback of Bama. Now, it's a snake draft, so the guy in 10 had the 201, and he turned right back around and took C.J. Stroud. So he went Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud back-to-back at the turn, and he got some applause and some thumbs up and some fire emojis for that, because that was a good 1-2 punch to have on your Devy team, because both of those guys are going to be first-round NFL draft picks when it's their time. So he's automatically got them. He's already got 2 quarterbacks in his pocket going into the NFL. I love the pick at the 202. Keyshawn Boutte coming back from injury off of LSU. Love that pick. I have him in the Devy Hitman. You guys have probably heard me talk about that. And this guy is awesome. I love that pick. And him making it to the 2nd round was a steal for the fellow that took him. At the 2-3, this was probably it made me sick to my stomach because I really wanted him to climb back up the ladder to me. I was going to take him seriously at the 102 where I took Henderson, but Quinn Ewers goes at the 203, and that's a guy, and you've listened to me on several podcasts in a row now saying I want all that Texas smoke. Anything you can get your hands on from Texas, and it looks like Jordan Addison maybe even going to Texas. Get your hands on it because the potential right there is huge. That offense could just be electric, and every one of those guys could punch their ticket into the NFL, and it's all going to be powered by Quinn Ewers. I love that pick. I was hoping he would fall a little bit farther, but he didn't, and I wasn't able to get him. Nick Anderson, excuse me, wide receiver, I believe he's from Oklahoma, goes next, followed by Caleb Williams, and then followed by Mario Williams. Sorry, I didn't write down first names. The running back from Florida, I didn't get his first name wrote down, goes after Mario Williams to USC, and then Sean Tucker, the sensational running back from Syracuse, followed by me taking Jordan Addison at the 2-9, and then Jace McClellan going at the 2-10. So a recap of the second round there: Stroud, Butte, Ewers, Anderson, Caleb Williams, Mario Williams, Johnson, running back from Florida, Sean Tucker, Jordan Addison, Jace McClellan rounds out the second round. Jumping into the third, coming back down the hill, I almost got some of that Texas smoke, but Xavier Worthy went at the 3-1. He didn't make it to the 3-2, so I took L.J. Johnson. I really love the prospects of L.J. Johnson at Texas A&M there with Jimbo Fisher. I got him in both Devy leagues, and really like him, and I'm hoping I can pick him up in college fantasy because I'm pretty darn sure that he is a free agent in that draft. Zach Charbonnet goes at the 3-3, followed by Spencer Rattler. I believe it's Anthony Anderson, wide receiver for Oklahoma. Next at the 3-5, 3-6, Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State, followed by A.T. Perry from Wake Forest, then Will Shipley, then Josh Downs at the 3-9, and then Nick Singleton, the star running back, freshman running back last year for Penn State, goes at the 3-10. Love that pick. So if you look at that across, first three picks for the guy in the 10 slot was Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Nick Singleton. Off to a very fantastic start for George. His name's George in that league. Right above him, a guy by the name of Josh who goes by Doc Holliday on Twitter, and you can check him out, and a guy by the name of Miguel Romero. You can check out them on a YouTube show called The PPR Show. That's hosted by Miguel Romero, and if you look at his picks, his first three picks were Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kayshon Boutte, and Josh Downs. That is a great 1-2-3 punch at wide receiver, and all three of those guys are going to make it into the NFL. So great start by the people at the end of the draft, because the talent is loaded in college. I mean, it's just grab a name, and you're going to get some serious talent. And it was only set up to be 5 rounds. We went 7. It was voted in to go ahead and go 7, just because there are so much out there, and then we was wanting to get a couple more people on our team. So we went 7 as opposed to 5 in the startup. Moving into the 4th round, and I'm probably going to go 4th and 5th round, and just touch on some players in the 6th and 7th. DJ Ugungalele, or however you pronounce his name, goes to 401. I took Rasheen Ali from Marshall. I love his size and what he did last year, and he's very young. I think the sky's the limit for that kid. He could be very, very good. Branson Robinson, that monster from Georgia, goes at the 4-3. Zay Flowers goes at the 4-4. Here's an interesting pick at the 4-5. Trey Benson, transfer from Oregon to Florida State, taken by Josh Thrush in the 5th round. And from what we've seen, not only in spring ball but in the spring game, if his injuries are right, this may be a one of the steals of the Devy draft, not only for Josh Thrush but also for Florida State getting him in the transfer portal, because he looks fantastic, and if he can stay healthy, they got a steal in the transfer portal. At the 4-6 goes Will Levis, quarterback from Kentucky, followed by Blake Corum, running back from Michigan. I love that pick. I actually had Blake Corum and a share of him in our Devy Hitmen League last year. Cut him to make room for somebody else. Wish I hadn't have let him go, because we saw what he can do when he gets on the field for Michigan. Quentin Johnson goes at the 4-8, followed by Anthony Richardson, quarterback from Florida, and then rounding out the 4th round, Lou Nichols, the running back from Central Michigan. I got to say, all in all, George, for jumping into this Devy thing, his first go-around, picked very well in this draft. He thought out his players, he thought out his picks, and he did very well. I was very impressed with him on who he grabbed, with his picks. He made the most of them. Going on round 5, at the 501, George again on the turn took Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback from the U. Now he's a fan of the U. He grew up in Miami, so I understand the pick. I even made a note when he took him. I said I wondered how long it was going to be before you took him. It's not just because it's a fan pick. You're supposed to take some fan picks. You're supposed to take some guys that you like. Okay, I know it's business, but you're supposed to pick a guy, take him because you're rooting for him, and hopefully that it pans out for him. So I love this pick here, 5th round, great place to take Van Dyke, and honestly, really kind of shocked that he made it this far. Kendall Milton, the running back for Georgia, goes next, followed by Burton, the wide receiver from Bama, goes at the 5-3. Brett Gabbert, quarterback from Miami of Ohio, and this was a really good pick. I like this pick, and I hope it pans out. I've been a fan of his ever since he was still in high school. So I like the pick here, and I'm hoping that it works out. Chris Rodriguez, running back from Kentucky, goes next. I think it's Cade Klubnik, quarterback for Clemson, was taken. And then here's a great pick. At the 5-7, Arch Manning goes. At the 5-7, and he's still in high school. We're allowed to pick high school players in this. Now, I'm never going to take a high school player, even with the pop of Arch Manning. I just don't want to hold him that long. I would cut him the first chance that I got to pick up somebody who I thought had a quicker path to the NFL. I would cut him. He wouldn't last very long. So I don't down people who have taken Arch Manning in Devy drafts. If you have high school availability in your Devy draft, I don't down it. But you're just going to be sitting on it for so long and hoping that it pans out. Kamar Wheaton goes next, running back for SMU. That's a good pick. I really like him. I followed that up with Jackson Dart, running back out of Ole Miss. He transferred. We all know that he transferred to Ole Miss, and he's going to pick up and take over the mantle from Matt Corral. I think that works good in that system. So I like Jackson Dart there, and in the 5th round, I thought that was a pretty good deal. This is probably one of the most value picks in this draft. At the 5-10, Donovan Edwards, running back from Michigan. He is going to split with Blake Corum, but that kid's got some serious pop, and he is going to be a fine running back for the Wolverines. Touching on round 6 and 7 a little bit, Phil Jurkovic, quarterback for Boston College, went first. There were some Devon A-Chain, running back for Texas A&M, went in that round. I actually took Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Jackson State, in that round. I love what I see on film from him. I like his size. He does need to put on a little bit more weight, but I think at the college level, and if he does end up maybe transferring out, going to a bigger college, I'm really wanting to see what he can do in college. So I'll take a shot on him, and hopefully it works out. It's maybe prime. He's got prime in his blood, so hopefully it works out for him. Devin Neal goes at the 6'10", another quality pick by the guy named George, who's doing this Devy thing for the first time. Running back out of Kansas, he had a really great year last year till he got hurt, derailed his season, and but I really like that pick in the 6th round. Into the 7th round, a couple of guys that I want to touch on real quick. Luther Burden, he's either a redshirt freshman or a true freshman, wide receiver from Missouri. If you put on tape from that kid, he is fantastic. And for him to last to the 7th round of this just lets you know what and how deep college prospects are, for your Devy teams. Another guy I was really, really hyped and happy to get in the 7th round was Jaden Blue, running back out of Texas. He's going to get some playing time this year. Obviously, he won't take over, until Bijan goes pro, but I will hold him for a year. And another guy that I like here, probably my favorite pick of this round, Gary Bryant Jr. from USC. And if you put on tape from the quarterbacks at USC, Gary Bryant's catching all the passes. So I love this pick here in the 7th round, Gary Bryant Jr., wide receiver out of USC. I know that was fast, but I'm already a half hour into this thing, and I want to get to the Orphan League that I took over and talk about some of the rookies that were taken in that draft. But you can go back and just pause and rewind and get an idea of who went where. I know I talked fast and went through that fast, but that just gets you an idea of what a Devy draft was to look like, from a bunch of guys who most of the league is new to Devy. There was 2 of us, I think, that have been in Devy leagues before. Myself and Mike Adamson, we were 2 of the OGs that started up the Devy Hitmen, and he's in it, and myself's in it, and I'm pretty sure that is it. The other 8 guys are all new to Devy leagues. So all in all, I love the way that draft went. Really, really sensible picks up and down from everybody. So now it's just a matter of letting your flowers bloom, so to speak. You plant these Devy flowers and you hope that they bloom and are picked by the NFL. Boy, that really flowed together nicely. Okay, moving on to some rookie stuff. This league is called It's a Little Different. It's a little different because it has 3 or 4 little quirks that most leagues don't. For the first thing that jumps off of you, it has a league median, which means if you score higher than the league average, you get an extra win. If you score lower than the league average, you get a loss. So you could win a week and score below league median and take a loss as well. You could go 1-1 for the week and win, or 0-2 or 2-0. I mean, you could do any of those just because the league median score is a little different. 2 tight end league, which I absolutely hate tight ends in fantasy, let alone 2. But I want to take over an orphan team, so this is tight end premium. So the tight ends in this league, which are very few and far between because tight ends are, they're very valuable because of the tight end premium. So those are a couple of of why it makes this league different. It was an orphan team that our good buddy Brian Wickham reached out to me last year and asked me if I wanted to take it over and play for free. Because that's how we kind of handle our leagues, is if you take over an orphan team, you kind of get the crap that the person before you left over, so you get to play for free. So I played for free last year, and I named my team House Money because there was nothing really on it. I had Kyler, Dalvin, Devontae Adams. I can't remember who else it was, but I basically gutted the team. I took it down to the 2 befores, and I was starting from scratch. So I accumulated 9 picks in the first 3 rounds of this draft. So it's a little lopsided as far as rookies go on my team because I gutted the team last year and traded everybody away so that I could trade picks back to get it going. So But that's what it's all about. Okay, I'm not big on trading draft picks in startups, but in order to move around in leagues, you're going to have to do your due diligence, do your work, and build for the future. So let's get this thing going here. At the 101 was Breece Hall. I was drafting out of the 101, out of the first spot, but I had traded that pick away last year for something. Ended up tried to get the pick back. Guy wasn't coming off of it. He takes Breece Hall at the 101. Brian Wickham had the 102. He takes Kenny Pickett. Like I said, this is a very depleted field. There's nothing in the free agent pool. It's a super flex. So quarterbacks are on point. They're very important. So you always got to know what the landscape of your league looks like. One quarterback leagues, Kenny Pickett probably doesn't go with the 102. It's probably Treylon Burks or Kenneth Walker or Garrett Wilson or somebody. But since it's this setup, Kenny Pickett goes number 2. I in return made a trade for Kenny Pickett. I traded the last remaining valuable piece on my team, which was Dalvin Cook. And by the time my team's good, Dalvin Cook will be past his prime, and he won't be. So I traded him to Brian, who's in win now mode, and I was able to build for the future. I got Dalvin Cook, another pick, and something else. A Pickett for Dalvin Cook. So that broke down 10 picks in 3 rounds. So Kenny Pickett goes with the 102. Treylon Burks goes the 103. Kenneth Walker goes at the 1-4. Drake London then goes as the first really big shock off of the board. Treylon Burks goes, then Drake London, then Garrett Wilson. So we had Burks, and Drake London going ahead of Garrett Wilson, followed by Chris Olave and Jameson Williams. And then I had 3 picks in a row. I took Sky Moore, Christian Watson, and James Cook. This is not a snake draft. It's a linear draft, so it kicks back over at the 2. And the 201 was Matt Corral, followed by Malik Willis, and then Jahan Dotson, Trey McBride, the first big wide receiver or tight end name goes off the board, and then George Pickens goes at the 2-5. I want to like that George Pickens acquisition not only for Pittsburgh, but my Pittsburgh buddies who like the Steelers, but I also want to like it for fantasy. I just don't know about the injury. I know he came back and played last year late in the bowl game or whatever, just as a token to let the guys know he was okay. So I hope that works out for him because he's got Kenny Pickett to throw the ball to, and a fantastic running back there now, Najee Harris. So I hope that nucleus works out. And I want to like Kenny Pickett. I'm just very apprehensive to like Kenny Pickett. George Pickens. There's too many Pickens and Picketts and stuff in this going to the same team. The 2-6, John Mechie. The 2-7, Alec Pierce. And if I'm pausing, it's because I'm trying to make sure I get these in a row. I'm reading them off of my phone, and I'm making sure that they are in order. The 2-8, Sam Howell goes at the 2-8, followed by me at the 2-9. I took Jalen Tolbert. I love that pick. I love the landing spot in Dallas. I think he can have some serious playing time as a freshman. David Bell goes at the 2-10. I come back and I take Jelani Woods at the 2-11. Look, if you say you may have taken Jelani Woods too early, you're probably right. But I love that upside. I love his film and love watching. He's a a quarterback who transferred to the tight end position, and he's a monster with athletic upside that just screams at you. So, what am I? I'm in rebuild mode anyway. I'll take a shot on this kid, hoping it pans out, and if he don't, it's whatever. But if you put the film on from this guy, he has great hands. Athleticism is crazy good. He can run routes, go across the middle, and I'm really excited about Jelani Woods. So I was happy that I was able to get him at the 211. I followed that up. I had the 212 also due to trades, and I took Tyquan Thornton, the speedster, who went to the New England Patriots. Like I said, I'm in rebuild mode, so anything I can get my hands on that at any kind of value, I was scarfing up. This is only a 4-round draft, so I'll tell you everybody. It's a 4-round supplemental. So at the 4-1, Greg Dulcich goes at the 4-1. Brian Robinson, running back out of Bama, goes to Washington. He was taken at the 3-2, followed by Wan'Dale Robinson, who went from Kentucky to the New York Giants. Cade Otton goes at the 3-4, another very talented tight end, and a tight end-driven, premium league where you're taking shots on tight ends. You're just drafting them and sticking them in your taxi, and, you hope that they pop in a couple of years. They're probably not going to pop in year one because that doesn't happen unless you're Kyle Pitts, but you're taking shots on tight ends because this league is tight end-driven. Isaiah Spiller comes in at the 3-5. Damian Pierce, Rashad White, Zamir White, 4 running backs go in a row. Actually 5 because I took Tyler Algier, followed by Kyron Williams, and then Tyron Davis-Price. So that was a complete, pretty much running back round where there was a run on running backs finalized at the 3-12 by Jeremy Ruckert. Tight end going there. Kicking off the 4th round, this is a 5-round draft. I did not copy the 5th round down. At the 4-1 goes Velus Jones. That is a significant pick because I think he can work himself into some playing time in Chicago. If Justin Fields can get it going, Velus Jones is a very fast, very good wide receiver, and I think he can carve out a role for himself on this team. Khalil Shakir goes to Buffalo, and, you can't get a better landing spot than with a quarterback who can throw the ball all over the place. So Khalil Shakir at the 4-2 is a great pick as well because he may be able to see some playing time if he can land a spot, injuries, whatever. You can't write any of these guys off because they all have a chance. Hassan Haskins, running back out of Michigan, who had a fantastic year last year, goes to Tennessee, and you're just a Derrick Henry injury away from him getting a legitimate shot, in the NFL. So I love the landing spot. Calvin Austin from Memphis goes to Pitt, and they, the Pittsburgh Steelers need all the help they can get, and they're rebuilding. And a young, talented, fast wide receiver out of Memphis goes to Pittsburgh, and great pick, and he was there at the 4th round. You love the value, and you also love the landing spot. 4-6 was Romeo Doubs, wide receiver out of Nevada. Had this guy in college fantasy last year. One of the conference's better wide receivers. So he goes and joins Christian Watson on a team that really needed some wide receiver help. So I like the landing spot. I still have him in College to Canton, in our College to Canton league, hanging on to him. So, maybe he's able to take over, where Randall Cobb's getting up in years. And, he sets a year and gets some experience, and he works himself onto the field. So, I don't hate that pick by the guy who took them there at the 4-6. 4-7, Keontae Ingram, who is another one of those guys that just an injury away, from getting a shot. He's on a team where the running back gets hurt, and he's a bigger back. He went to he was at Texas, transferred to USC, and then he gets drafted by the Cardinals, and that's a great shot. The 4-8, Justin Ross. This is a kid who would have been probably taken in the first or second round had it not been for the back injury that he suffered at Clemson. He went undrafted, but he has since signed, and I'm thinking that I heard it was the Giants, but don't hold me to that. That's just off the top of my head. Not real sure, but he did sign an undrafted free agent contract with somebody. So if a great pick, but I have my questions as to, the longevity and can he actually do it, because he was never supposed to play football again. So the fact that he's even able to just, land on an NFL team is amazing enough. And I think the battle for him's uphill, and I wish him all the best, because I don't ever, I've said this many, many times on this podcast, I don't ever want to see anybody get hurt. I don't care who they play for. I don't care if it's for the team that I cannot stand the most, which is the Florida Gators. I do not want to see their kids get hurt, because they're kids. They're trying to play a kid's game and live out their NFL dreams. I do not want to see anybody get hurt and lost to injury. So, I'm really pulling for this kid, because he was fantastic, and he would have been a higher pick, probably a first or second round pick in the NFL draft, had it not been for the injury. So it'd be interesting to see, how his career pans out. He was at the 408. Daniel Bellinger, another talented tight end, goes at the 4.9. Ty Chandler rounds out what I have wrote down on this draft. He was a Tennessee Volunteer, transferred to North Carolina, and played last year after Javonte Williams and Michael Carter went pro. So very talented, very good running back. I think he could make himself a little bit of money in the NFL, stays healthy, and can carve out a role. That was fast as well, but I'm already looking at almost 50 minutes into this, and I don't have a time limit, but I'm going to talk for so long. So that was fast. That is actual, not mock draft, because I hate mock drafting, but that was not mock draft. That was real drafting. And since we've had those drafts, we've also had our 3-round Devy Hitman draft, supplemental draft, and we are currently drafting our startup for the Devy Sharpshooters, which is in round 15 last time I checked, which was an hour ago. I don't know if they may be waiting on me to pick. I don't know. But that's actual picks from actual drafts, not mocking. So if you're into Devy, or you want to get into Devy, and you're a big-time college football fan, I highly recommend just go to the sleeper. You can go to the sleeper. I call it the sleeper trading post, because you can go into the trade. I call it the trading post. They don't, but I do. You can go into the trading post and see all the want ads for teams starting up, and there'll be some people, posting on there, hey, starting up a Devy league, inquire for info or whatever. And if you have a desire and a passion for college football, and you like the game, and you really don't want to get into like college fantasy, then Devy's the way to go. Now, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, get into a college fantasy league and say goodbye to sleep. But if you're interested in it, and you're wanting to not only get into more college stuff, but also enhance your NFL fantasy knowledge, because I've had so many people, and our own Brian Wickham, who is the fantasy, machine, in my opinion, said playing college fantasy last year just really opened up his eyes to the NFL fantasy world. And you know these guys because you've met with them. You've dealt with them on your college teams, on your Devy teams, and you know what they're capable of. So I've had so many people reach out and say, hey, Devy leagues are it's like I call them a farm team. They're like your farm team for your NFL team. So they're going to go to the farm team, play a little AAA ball, and then they're going to go pro for you. So if you're interested, join a Devy league. If you got any questions, hit me up, and I'll be happy to answer them. You can find me on Twitter at Hateful Hitman. You can find me all over social media or whatever, and I'll try to answer anything that I can. Now, look, every Devy league set up different. Ours is very unique because we allow moves. We allow some free agent moves because I actually keep the names and the paperwork here on paper in my podcast room. So Some Devy leagues don't do that. Others might. Some may have different rules, but check into them if you're interested in Devy. And I'm not trying to talk you into it one way or the other, but if you have a passion for college football, check it out. That'll do it for me. Hope you enjoyed that. I gave you a little bit of idea of how things are kind of rolling this year as we're firing up draft season. My name is Chris Strasbaugh. You can find me on Twitter at Hateful Hitman. You can find the show anywhere you listen to your podcast. Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Pods, YouTube. I'm everywhere. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time on The Blitz.